It's a sunny Saturday, and birds are out. So am I. Blue sky. Still some snow here, but yeah, mostly melting. And out for the morning walk, and probably still kind of thinking about what to do in NetNarr this week. Always on the mind.
Hi, NetNarr. On my way to the public library with my family. It stopped raining for a second in Bergen. Gotta be on the move.
I like this little spot because it's between just two streets, but it's like a little connector and almost like a little secret passageway that I feel like only I and Felix know about.
So we're headed to get some knowledge. So this library is pretty special because it features often digital literature. And did you know, FYI, that I will be doing a public installation here in the spring, which you guys might be a part of.
And in fact, people in cold regions of the world, it's so nice out. I'm wearing a t-shirt. Sorry. Hey buddy, you're right, Felix. It's too nice a day to sit inside and stare at the computer. So gotta do some stuff outside. I got these logs here. Need some splitting and cutting, but I'm looking at them and thinking there's a lot of great patterns here, and I'm looking at the tops, and it might be interesting if I superimposed, I don't know, some faces or make them look like record albums. And then when this is cut up, there's all kinds of weird patterns in the sawdust. So there's lots of opportunities to create some digital art. Unless here's someone who really cares about digital art. You can see how he expresses it.
So Felix doesn't seem that interested in digital art. Neither does she.
Yeah, that library looks pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's a really special place. The Bergen Public Library it serves the entire city, but it has this really lived in feeling, meaning it's a library that's dynamic and filled with community activity. But the cool thing about it is that lately it's been featuring electronic art and electronic literature in particular. So there's all kinds of events that are occurring there. And one of the cool things too, I want to tell you, Alan, is that some of the work that we'll be doing in the NetNarr class, when we get to the idea of self-representation in the digital age and the idea of the selfie unselfie project that we're going to roll out, will be featured as a public installation at that public library in the spring.
Wait a minute. We're going to be in the library?
We're all going to be in the library. So
NetNarr.
Yeah, so it's at featured digital artists making comment on the issue of identity in social media spaces. So the work that we're doing will be folded into the public art installation. So I'm really excited about this, and I wanted to share with you what it looked like, so you got a glimpse.
Great. Yeah, it was quite a week. We packed a lot in because we had the live session with Brett Victor, and then we did some.
Oh, it was so great to talk to Brett.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and just that whole thing about without the internet, the networks, and he's actually a friend of a friend who introduced me to him. Is that how else could I get a top film producer to come and talk to our classes?
Yeah, well, you have a lot of tricks up your sleeve, but yeah, it was fantastic to talk to him and talk about his process, and feel inspired by his earlier story in the Hangout about how he came to be a web documentarian. Was really fascinating to me. The roads we take to become who we are in our professional lives, that was inspiring. But then, of course, all the stuff about privacy that we discussed and the Internet of Things and data tracking was also quite a lot of food for thought.
Yeah, we had a little bit of discussion on that, and I hope it's something I've been trying to ask them to think about as they start writing and reflecting on this. Is like the overwhelming feeling is like, oh my God, this is scary, and how's this going on, and then, but also it's that kind of numbing aspect about like, I'm one person, what can I do?
Right.
And so trying to get the message out through some of the tools and suggestions and just awareness that we shouldn't resign ourselves to not being able to do anything.
Yeah, I think we can often feel overwhelmed by the notion that we're being so manipulated in our digital lives. But I think that the Hangout ended on a really powerful note by pivoting over towards the question of literacies. What is digital literacy? You know, what kinds of skills and knowledge do we take to our behaviors? What do we want to pass down to future generations so that we can all participate in ways that are productive and healthy and create a better society? I liked that the Hangout ended on that note that was positive rather than feeling this overwhelming concern without much empowerment.
And that leads into, you know, the next, I'm calling them segment that we're getting into, which is the one on digital art. And you know, my interest is like having students being able to address some of these concerns and possibly expressions about how they feel or what's right, what's wrong through digital art. And, you know, I'm planning to start with, probably my favorite thing too, is just to me, like photography, like the photograph is like the fundamental unit. You know, you build memes and GIFs off of it, you do video off of it, but just having that sense about that, that it's more than clicking a button and taking a snapshot. There's some deliberate things you can do by just focusing a little bit more focus and attentive to the way you use something as simple as a camera. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that you're sort of foregrounding the idea of the digital photograph as a starting point for the conversation. And ironically, that's exactly where we're going to. I mean, it's not ironic, it's well planned, but there's a design in it, is what I mean. But we're going to be taking up the idea of the influence of when photography then became digitized and how that was a game changer for artistic production overall. So we'll be taking a look at, you know, maybe we'll even go back as far as Walter Benjamin's Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction to start our conversation about how technology and reproduction and distribution has transformed the way we produce art in this day and age. So that's kind of where we're going to be hovering this week, which is exactly in sync with what you seem to be planning too in New Jersey.
And it kind of, you know, gets into some of the problems about, you know, that Jonathan Worth framed so well, with some of the problems about, you know, the things about owning the photograph and being able to control distribution, which is nearly impossible when the image is digitized.
Exactly. So therefore, there has to be sort of a different paradigm shift for what one does as an artist and why one does what they do. And I mean, often it's framed in a market for understanding, you know, how do I make money off of being a photographer in the 21st century? If my photos are everywhere in the click of a button. Yeah, there's that concern, but even more so, what do these technologies do for the way that we think about what art is and how we produce it? So that's what we'll be pondering, and I'm excited to pick up on that.
Yeah, and this, you know, and then, you know, in about a week and a half, we've got the, we're going to have another studio visit with Emilio Vavarella, who's a practicing digital artist who does some amazing video art. That's going to be great. I'm also pleased to see, like, some of the Twitter activity picking up as you know, some of my students, this is new to them, or just the whole idea about getting some of this mingling and overlapping between the two classes. And we're already starting to see little bits of it. We're going to fold in some more with some of the daily activities, and I'm trying to rope in some people from DS 106 in a way to create those cross connections.
Excellent. I think it's the connectivity we're starting to see the very beginnings of. That is like, first, just from the perspective of my students, I think just participating, just throwing some creative responses out there is step one. But I also see a little bit of interchange and back and forth. And the spirit of that is starting to bubble up a little bit. So hopefully that'll continue to grow and become more ambitious when people reach out beyond their immediate circles, like the course that they're in, to the other participants in the network. So that'll be really exciting. And before I forget, I also want to tell you that our dear friend and Leo Flores is coming to Norway this week.
Cool.
And he'll be giving a lecture on third generation electronic literature. And even though we're doing eLit at the end of this semester, it's a wonderful preview. And we'll have him back again in one of our studio visits, of course.
Oh yeah, it was our first one, but it was one of my most memorable ones. So say hi to Leo.
I agree. Yeah. We will do a shout out to you for sure. We'll capture some video.
That's great. So there's a lot of alchemy buzzing. I think the concoction is working, man.
I think so. There's a lot of good chemistry.
Yeah. Although we'll have to figure out this dog and cat art thing. I don't know about that.
Well, what I was thinking when I was contemplating our pets and their behaviors is maybe that my train of thought was, well, maybe there's something particularly human in the activity of producing art that we leave them behind on some level when we engage in artistic production. So I don't know, maybe that's too human oriented and elitist towards the animals, who I love the animals, but it was where my mind was going when they seemed to debut in our videos.
I'm looking over. I'm going to take a picture of Felix because he's perfectly asleep and he doesn't care right now about art or any kind of human condition.
Another nap.
That's right. All right. We look forward to see what's happening this week, and we'll check next week.
Have a great week, and we'll check in later.
All right. Thanks, man.